Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of our Kindship Summit. My name is Sandy, and this is the beautiful Steph.
Hi, guys.
I always get confused with the camera being opposite.
I know. Charlie's here with me as well, and she poked her head in before and was like, I'm not there. I'm over here. Like it's backwards.
It is confusing. It is.
Yeah.
So if you haven't tuned into the other 2 days of our summit, you must go back and watch them. They were epic. So day one, hey Amanda. Day one, we had a really amazing panel of ordinary mums doing extraordinary things, and they inspired the pants off of everybody. So if you haven't watched that, the recording's on our page as a live video recording. So go back and watch that. And then yesterday, we were lucky enough to interview Mel Dimmitt, who is the author of the special book and just an epic human being.
Yeah, she's so gorgeous. I always love speaking to her, and I'm always like, I just feel like she's just got this amazing voice that around disability and view of her life and her the way she articulates her journey as well. I could just sit there and listen to her for ages.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what I love too? She just keeps it real, and she's not afraid to drop an F-bomb and swear. And I was like, I'm trying to be on my best behaviour here, but she just comes in.
I know.
Yeah. I did that on a podcast reporting the other day. I was the guest on it, and then she swore, and I was like, can we swear on this? I didn't realise. I've been trying to be so good, reining it in. Anyway, we'll try to keep it PG for everyone today.
We will.
Charlie's sitting next to us.
Yes, we're on our best behaviour because the children are around today. Are we being good?
And it is World Autism Awareness Day. So it's a perfect day. This is actually the official launch day of Kindship, and we wanted to align it with this day. And yeah, I've got my fired up pants on today and wrote a little post this morning about how I believe this day should be about the world actually thinking about how they can be more inclusive, not about us educating about all the challenges that our kiddos have. So if you want a bit of fire, go and read that, because it's I'm not doing the typical thing today.
I can tell you've got your fired up pants on. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm just I can feel it in your energy. I'm like, oh yeah, I love it.
Well, if we don't advocate for our kiddos, who's gonna, right? So
exactly. Yeah. We had that discussion yesterday in our audio room on the app. It was about advocacy and how when we have those discussions, we can empower each other with resources or ideas, or even if it's just I feel like that too. Yeah. And then even if it just allows us to have that voice to speak up a little bit or ask that question, that's advocacy, and we can help each other do that. So I think that's cool.
I think too that statistic kind of fired me up. There's a Senate inquiry that's just come out on autism. And some of the statistics in that are horrendous, but even just reading the first paragraph, and it's talking about how some studies are now estimating that the actual rate of autism is 2.4 to 4.4% of the Australian population. Why are we not making the community more inclusive? But that's a large percentage.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think it's also important for us to be constantly looking at these statistics and reviewing them and stuff, because it's directly applicable to us,
Yeah. There was one that actually made me tear up, and it was the average life expectancy for an individual with autism is 20 to 36 years less than a typical Australian.
I'm not okay with that.
Speechless. Anyway. Sorry, this is why I have my fired up pants on today, peeps. I shouldn't have read that before I got onto this call. Anyway, we have some awesome guests for you today. However, let's just do our little intro so the people who weren't on the last 2 days know what we're talking about. Can you just share the slideshow, please, Jeff?
I can. I've just got a dead iPad that's just been presented to me.
All right, will you share the thing? And then I will take over.
I think we'll be okay. I'm just pre-warning everybody.
Thanks, Emma. Hey, Trude. Hey, Marisol.
Hi,
all right, so this is day 3 of our online summit, and we have 2 epic humans joining us today. So, of course, Steph and I are your hosts for today, and we have Tara, who is the head of education for Kindship, and Summer, who is our co-founder and CEO. So you guys are going to get some awesome info today. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to these beautiful ladies. Not only are they super talented and amazing at what they do, but they just like their hearts are so amazing. Like I feel like really privileged to be able to work with them every day. It's just such a treat. So before we get to them, in case you missed the last 2 days, so Kindship is a social networking app specifically for parents of kids with disabilities. So why is it different? Because it's built by parents just like you, and we are co-designing this space with you, which means we want all of the feedback and to build a space that serves your needs, what you want. Because I feel like as a parent over the years, I've kind of been told what I should want in terms of information and resources, not actually been asked what I need and want. So we are going to create a space for you where it has all of the things that you want, and we want to hear it from you.
Yeah. Something that you always say, Sandy, in like the beginning of like meeting you and obviously going through like our journey with our family, it's like you always said, like, you get to choose how you see this experience, right? And it doesn't mean that we don't have difficult days or whatever, but it also applies to like this whole like ability to interact in this app. Like we get to actually now take ownership of like how we connect with people. You know, if for us it's just sitting back in an audio room and listening to some like-minded parents, we get to choose that experience. Or if we're like, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there and go to a meetup or like interact today, like you get to choose that experience. So hopefully we're giving you like that opportunity in the palm of your hand every day.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, guys, the app's free. So just go to the Google Play Store or the App Store and download it. You set up your profile and you can get in there. There's heaps of amazing posts in there. You can filter the newsfeed by topics.
Yeah.
So there's a whole heap of different topics. So if you're particularly looking for like info on NDIS or posts on the NDIS, you can search just that filter. So it should make things easy to find. And as obviously our newsfeed grows, it's going to be like a library of parent experiences. And the beauty of that is your lived experience is so valuable in helping other people in our community. We can just lift each other up just by our experiences and wisdom.
Yeah, love it.
All right, let's get into it. I'm super excited to introduce people to Tara. So do you want to, you can stop sharing now and we can just bring Tara on.
Ta-da!
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
You're looking very glamorous this morning, love. Did you do your hair specially?
I'm going out tonight, so I did my hair already, so I'm done.
You always look glamorous.
I know, she does.
Oh,
she does.
stop, guys.
Oh, Tara, we are so lucky we get to work with you every day. And can you just share with everybody a bit of your parenting story so far? Because like we know it, but we need everybody else to just understand your journey.
Yep, cool. So I'm a mum of 3. Ava's my eldest, so she is 10, or turning 10. So I had a normal pregnancy with Ava. Everything was typical, went to plan. And then, so we had Willow. We actually weren't planning for Willow, and along comes this surprise. And she just kept surprising us. So she was born at 29 weeks, and that was just crazy shock. I remember going to hospital. I was actually in labor. I had no idea, thinking like just Braxton Hicks. Like I was so calm. And it wasn't until I was in the room and then all of a sudden it was full with midwives and doctors. And one of the ladies was like, "Oh, you're having your baby today." And I was just like, what do you mean? I'm like, Kirk wasn't there. And I was like, it just, I don't know, it hit me. And I just broke down. And then something came over me and I don't know, I was fine. And I was so strong in that moment. And she came along so tiny. She was 1.1 kilos and just a tiny little baby. And she was just whisked away straight away. And she actually went to a different hospital.
Oh, that would have been so hard.
Oh, I know. I already feel emotional talking about it now. So it was hard. We spent our first night away from each other and it was just I just can't explain it. Like, it was so scary. I was so sad. I just didn't understand what even happened. No one really spoke to me. Yeah, she was all by herself. So the next day I went and saw her, and she was in her little humidity crib. I couldn't even touch her. Like, couldn't put my hand in to feel her. And I remember thinking it wasn't real. Like, I remember messaging my sister thinking, like, I don't feel like she's my baby. I think I didn't get to hold her. And so it was just a roller coaster right from day one. Initially, then I think it was maybe a week in, and I got to hold her for that first time. And yeah, the connection is just, I don't know.
It's just on a side note, like that's so important, that power of connection with touch, right?
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
know there's so much research about it, but to hear you like talk about how you felt so disconnected from her when you didn't get to hold her.
And I just couldn't, I felt so guilty. I'm like, why? She's my baby, and I can't feel that bond. But as soon as I held her, there it was. But so we spent the first 6 weeks in NICU, which was quite the scary journey. We actually were there when 2 babies passed away. Like, it was just such an eye-opening experience. But so there was one particular day where I came in and she wasn't in her humidity crib. I was like, oh my God, where's she gone? And one of the nurses was like, oh, she's in a bassinet now. And that was just amazing. Like, felt a high like that. I could just go and see her and touch her and pick her up. Like, it was my actual baby that I was in control then. But then that same day, I think I had about 15 minutes of that moment. A doctor came in and he was just like, oh, so she's had a brain scan. And I'm like, yep. And he said, so she has a grey area on her brain. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, so that means she will have disabilities. And I was just like, well, what? Like, I remember I was sitting down, but I still felt like I was going to fall off the chair. And I was like, she might not. And he was just terrible bedside manner. He was just like, well, no, she will. He's like, the damage to her brain, she will. She could be blind. She just rattling off all these disabilities like it was no biggie. One of them was cerebral palsy, and I didn't even finish the conversation. I just left. I ran out of the room crying. My husband came in. He's like, what is going on? And he saw the doctor, sort of had a word to him. He's like, you shouldn't have said that with my wife by herself. So that night was it was just heartbreaking. We were both so heartbroken, thinking our little baby, like, what's her future going to look like? But we had our night, we felt the feelings, and then we woke up and we're just like, you know what? Like, it doesn't matter. We'll just go with it. We don't know what the future holds, so let's not dwell on it. We just got on with it. So that's how it all started, which is a roller coaster in itself. So because I remember I kept having cerebral palsy, that it was constantly in my brain. So as I'm sure all the new mums do, if they hear there could be something, onto Dr. Google, like, what does it mean? And I just was searching every day, and I was sort of even doing it in secret because my husband would be like, stop, you're gonna seem so crazy. I'm like, okay. And like
an obsession. Like and that's for me as well. Like, it was almost like something I could control in that moment. And
I am such a controller. I'm like, but if I know,
yes.
So I remember one was their fists, and so I would constantly be playing with Alex, tiny little baby, constantly looking at her, and she was constantly fisted. And then her eating and everything was sort of just little delays, like she couldn't roll, and I knew that there was something. We got the diagnosis at 7 months. She was 7 months old, and which was great that she was diagnosed so early. Like, it was such a blessing. I don't think if we had that experience with the NICU, she wouldn't have been on the radar as much. But so it was amazing, but it was also like, I went in thinking, I know they're going to say it, but it's just so different. A doctor saying,
confirming it.
Yeah. And I sort of, I didn't want to be upset, because I sort of thought, well, if I'm upset, what does that mean? Like, I still love her. And so I tried to block it out, and I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. So we sort of got thrown into the early intervention world. at 9 months old, she went to Cerebral Palsy Alliance. And that was just amazing. It was great, like, as I said, early intervention, but it was so daunting. Like, and I have amazing family and amazing friends, but no one really gets it. And I just felt so much pressure. And like, I do like to, if there's something that I can do, I'd go for it. But I think it was, so they would say, okay, you need to work on these skills. I'm like, all right, go home and work on it. And it was just all so stressful, like OT and with physio and speech, and you need to work on this, like, just endless amount. I remember I kept doing like a calendar, like, okay, we'll do this and this and this. It was just so consuming. And I had no one to talk to, because you have your therapist, but that's different. You go in and out, then you're sort of on your own. You do the rest at home. I started to, back on Google, we had to work on, because Willow's right hand doesn't, like, she pretty much didn't know she had a right hand. So baby stages, she was very upset. She couldn't play. She couldn't sit up. It was really overwhelming. So I had all this information coming in, but then I also have this baby that's always crying because she's just frustrated. I remember I couldn't leave her for a second. Like, I would try to leave like a couple of minutes each day, and I just couldn't. She would scream, and so it was just so stressful. But so I was Googling constraint therapy to get ideas, and I'm like, but there's nothing out there. Like, there's nothing to give me advice. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was just really consuming. And I think I placed so much pressure on myself because Kirk went back to work, and I'm like, well, it's all on me. I've got to do the things, like, I've got to make the most of this time. So kept looking and kept just going deeper and deeper down this hole of, I'm so scared and worried. And then one day I remember, because I'm quite creative and I've worked with children, and I love like coming up with ideas. And then one day I've got a photo of it, and I got paint out, and I put paint all over like this wooden spare bit of wood that we had. And I just sat down with her and played, and she was laughing and smiling. She had paint all over her, and she used her right hand so much. And I'm like, that pull it off. Like, I was playing with my playing with her, and we were both so happy, and it just clicked. I'm like, it's just play.
Then that was our next question, right? Which was like about what inspired you to create play-based resources, because you created like this whole series of resources, and like, what a beautiful story to like to be the catalyst. I still look
at that photo, I'm like, oh, that like just changed from there.
You made like a reel or a post the other day that I saw, and it was Willow like swimming and doing all these like amazing things in the pool. And I'm just like listening to this story now that you've just been telling about, like, you know, all the fear that was placed on you initially, and then like your process of coming to terms with that. And I think like those little moments are just like, most families are just like, oh yeah, get in the pool, but like are so special.
I know it is. It's just magical. Like, and that's so special about this journey. There's all these tiny little moments that I never would have felt before. Like, you have so much pride, and it brings you up, and there's so many beautiful moments. It's hard, but I think just finding that passion and having a support network is just beautiful. But back to your question, Sandy. So I made an Instagram account because I thought, I'm just going to start to share the therapy ideas we do. And it's sort of, at first it was just for Kirk and my mum or sister if they wanted to follow along. But I started it just lit me up seeing her so happy, and it wasn't stressful. So I'm like, I'm just going to start hashtagging like constraint therapy. And I just couldn't believe it. The amount of other people just like me were out there searching for just anything, just a little bit of so it started from there, and I constantly had parents messaging me saying, oh, thank you for sharing. Like, I did this activity with my son or my daughter, and they loved it. And it just kept going from there. And it ended up being like a therapy tool for myself, that I was helping others, but like they were actually helping me so much, encouraging me the whole time just to keep going. And that's where it all started.
I totally get that, because that's how like I feel like with sharing Imi's journey.
Yeah.
And actually, like when I type out a post, like even like this morning, writing out that Autism Day like awareness post, like I process things through the writing, and like then sharing that with others actually helps me to get through it, because I feel like our experiences can contribute somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
So for those people who have never heard of like play-based learning or play therapy, do you just want to, I know this wasn't in our questions that we sent you, so throwing you a question, but like how do you describe it to people who have never heard of it?
Okay, so I remember a lot of people would be like, oh, she's so you're so lucky, like how she just does therapy for you, but it's not that. I would find what she was interested in. So she loved painting, and I'm like, you can do anything with painting. Like the amount of activities I've done with painting, I get her to put her feet in it and she's moving her legs, or stand up and practice standing practice, and like on the window. So for me, it's not so much like, for example, physio say work on squats. I'm not like, okay, let's
drop and give me 10.
Yeah, like go below, we need to do this. It's about, okay, what's something that Willow loves to do, and then we'll incorporate the squats. So the therapy for me is the later, and her skills, her interests is what I put first. So
I love that so much.
Yeah. So it might not be perfect. Like she might not be doing the squats how she's meant to do it, but who cares? Like she's still getting so much from it. And she finds enjoyment from it. We went from like, it was like a chore before. And she was only little, but I could tell like she saw her little therapy table, and it was like, I don't arch her back. Like I don't want to go in there.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, so she might not do it perfect, but done is better than perfect. And if she doesn't like it, she's not going to do it. So you might as well do it imperfectly and get it done.
Yeah. And all that little practice, like all the progress along the way, of all those little moments, like they really add up. And like the repetitive movements, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it is making that link to her brain, like moving her body that way. I remember, I think she was about 14 months, and one of the skills we were working on was crawling, and she hated it, like absolutely hated it. We'd go to physio, and even physio was still very much just focusing on that skill. Like you do this, like let's just do this, like those movements. I hated it, and we worked on it at home. There was one day she's like, okay, I think this is too stressful. I don't think she's going to crawl, and that's okay. Whereas a few months ago, it was everything. She needs to crawl because she was working on both sides of her body. Let's just not worry about it. And I had that in my brain, like, no, but you said it was so important for later skills. So we just kept practicing at home, practice through playing.
So what activities did you do to help her to, like, with those skills? Yeah.
So I would, so again, she loved paint. She just loved getting messy. And with her autism, she's so oral, sensory seeking. So if she could and I would make the paint. So she'd put it in mouth, it didn't matter. But I would put paint down the end of like a yoga mat, and for her to go get it. It didn't matter how she got there. I helped her. It wasn't stressful. It was like, let's get the paint. And then she would get so messy.
That's amazing.
Into a sensory experience.
I can see all the mums. I can feel them in the background going, oh, it's so messy.
Or a cloth, it's fine. Or stickers, like ripping stickers off the floor. And like I'd put it all on my face, and I'd be like, oh, stickers on my face. Like it was, she just cracked up for our session. She thought that was so funny. But
was learning so much.
We were playing, but she at 20 months old, she was crawling. And it was just amazing. Like, and I wasn't even expecting it on the day. I had her doll, and I set up a tea party. I'm like, oh, we're playing dollies. And she started to like army crawl to it. And I just, I think I got a video. I was in tears. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, I'm getting emotional listening to you talk.
Always watch it. I'm just, so she crawled. And like, if I listened to that physio, she wouldn't have crawled. So, and that's another reason I'm so like passionate about sharing, because I think, like you guys have been saying over the last 3 days, you learn so much from other parents. I've had parents say to me, oh, my child, like, I don't think she'll crawl. I'm like, you never know. Like, No one can tell you what your child can do.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, no
also,
one.
like, not to be discouraged by, like, there's that whole notion of like, well, you go into like a therapy session and it's like, I used to feel a sense of like anxiety before we go in, because I'd be like, oh, are we going to fail this session? Like, if she doesn't do the bits that we're going to do, or if she doesn't have like a success in that session, where it's like really reframing the own way we look at therapies and or like learning, you know, not even when they're like small, but like as they grow, like the whole education system should adapt a little bit better, I think, to all people.
Yeah, definitely.
I think too, like as we said yesterday with Mel, like doctors, like whilst they're educated and have the great theory behind it, they're not experts in your child and the practical implementation of things. So like really owning that, you know, you are the expert in your child and how, you know, how they learn. And I was thinking about, just as you were talking, Steph, the therapy thing. I remember we tried one near us, which was really cool, had all these massive spaces and trampolines and all the fun like OT stuff. And they actually had the speechy and the OT doing a session with Emmy at the same time. So we're paying both of them to be in the room. So it was really expensive. And Emmy would run rings around them. Like I was just like, she would be like jumping, like they could not engage her. And like I was like, really? Like there's two of you in here. This is you're the experts. How am I supposed to do it if you guys? And I brought my dad along one day because I was like, Dad, I need your help. Like come and he goes, is this a bad day? I'm like, nope. This is what it's like every week. And he's like, I think we need to go do something else. Like it was just like crazy.
We used to pay out of pocket, like initially when she was going through the process, like out of pocket. So like we do the speech and OT sessions, and it'd be like $400-500 each week, like for her to just be like running in circles. But it wasn't her fault either. Like, you know, she's like just trying, and we're trying to fit her into like these expectations. And I get it, like there's definitely place for it, but it's like I wonder.
Oh, we definitely need both.
Yeah, but if we can be empowered to understand that, well, maybe we could look at this a bit differently, or what do they actually love, and then do some stuff at home, like that's really, I think, where the magic happens, you know, or speaking to people about it.
Yeah, I think it's so, a lot of parents get, like therapy appointments can be so overwhelming, and it's sort of sometimes can feel petrifying to try to do it at home with family and siblings and everyone else. Can
you touch on siblings? Because I know we wanted to talk about that. Like, did you find that by introducing like play therapy concept, that then Willow's siblings were then able to be more 100%. Involved?
So at the start, I saw it as therapy. Like we sit down, because Ava was like 2.5 at the time. So she wanted to, I'm like, no, I need to do this with Willow. Yeah. This is so important. It was just so regimented. Like it was just, so strict. We sit here and we have to do these skills. Like this is what the therapist said to work on. And then we just changed it. And then there often wouldn't be a session that Ava wasn't involved in. She just joined in, and she ended up wanted to be the therapist sometime. Like she would so much, and so she knew how to play with Willow, and she would put, like if we had a little puppet and having a tea party, she would put the food for the puppet and be like, Willow over this side, and get her to use her right hand and bring it in. So I think that helped me too, because like the mum guilt is just, we always have mum guilt about everything.
Yes.
Knowing that she was playing too, I was like, that helped us so much.
Yeah. And I wish I'd known this. Like, it's so funny. Like I was like, because I had that experience with Cooper where I always felt like he was missing out, because you're like, no, I have to do this with Emmy. Like it's really important. And like hearing you talk about that, it's like you don't actually have to do it separate. You could bring everybody in on it. And like I would see Cooper, because he'd see us interacting with Emmy and like implementing like speech therapy techniques, or like, and he would start doing it with her. And I'm like, like they learn from us, but like what if we did it all together?
100%. Yeah, like the other day, Willow, like if she has a huge meltdown. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, so patient all the way leading up to it. I'm like, I've just got nothing. Like, but her sister, because she's so in tune, because she has been around it, and we've never hid anything. Like, we're so open, and we involve her. If you want to play, come and play. If you want to come to an appointment, come to an appointment. So she was like, oh, got this, Mum. And then she went into her willow, and I could hear her talking, and I'm like, oh my God, it's quiet. What's happening in there? But I see her sometimes. She watches what the therapists do or watch what I do, and she's like, Willow, got 2 choices. And she puts her hands up. She's like, this is this choice. This is this choice, because she knows she can't talk when she's in that midst of meltdown. Yes. She's like, just point to me. And so she'll point to her hand. Like,
that's amazing.
So you don't have to be scared of people, like, let them join in. Like,
there's a couple of comments, and I think we should talk about it. So with multiple siblings with needs, and especially if they're like, their needs are very different. I know that there was a post, I think it was yesterday, from Lauren in the Kindship app where they were doing one of your activities. Tara. I think they were making Play-Doh or something.
Actually, I didn't see that.
Did you see it? Yeah, but Lauren was talking about how each of the kids have really different like sensory needs, but then it was like they engaged in different parts of the activity that suited their needs. I was like, oh my God, that's like genius.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's it. Even the girls that like the other 2 aren't on the spectrum or don't have a disability, but they like different things with like than Willow too. Willow loves getting, which is funny because she used to hate getting messy, but through constant sensory play, now she can't get enough. She's like, lather me in all things. But Ava doesn't like to get messy. So like, there's just different ways they can do different parts of the activity. Or if there's a painting thing, one can do the hand painting, one can use the paintbrush, and you can adapt activities. Like it is hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not
even if even if it just provides a sense of like understanding into what's going on. Like, my girls are so close in age, so it's almost like they're twins. And like a lot of the time, like, I mean, previously, I think it's starting to shift a little bit now, but like it would, like, Amy would feel like we were shutting her out because she didn't understand. But then once we let her into some of the sessions, like her OT sessions, she would help her and be like, I see what's going on now. This is what she needs help with. And then she'd be able to jump in and be included as well. So I found that really beneficial as well. And then gave me ideas to do with both the kids. That was just fun. It was based on like having fun. It didn't all need to be like sitting there and ticking boxes.
I know. And that's what I struggled with at the start. Like, I used to write a list. I'm like, I haven't done this week. But then I'm like, just
a lot of pressure.
Like, to play and incorporate it through that way. And
it's a great
perspective. Yeah. And she's come so far, like, through all that early intervention playing at home. Like, it's done amazing
I love seeing your girls all interact together. Like, they're so gorgeous and like, oh my God, I just love it.
They're all so loud. I'm not loud. They take up their work like chatterboxes, but they're all hilarious. Like, they're such funny girls, the stuff they come out with.
You are very zen. Like, when you were talking about being like frazzled and stuff, I'm like, I can't actually imagine that. So I only know the calm Tara.
Dog, like, our dog is crazy. Like, I said to Kirk, I'm like, what's wrong with him? Like, take him. I'm so stressed. My mum always jokes. She's like, you've got the crazy girls, you've got the husband, and now you've got a crazy dog. I'm like, but
you're like the calm in the storm.
I know, I'm just the calmness. I'm doing the calmness. I'm like, where's the wrong guys? Calm down.
Yeah. So look, I know that you're the head of education for Kindship, so you're like the blog queen, and you do include a lot of your like play therapy tips in there. So if people are interested, they can check out the blogs. I know we're going to be bringing out some other resources around that, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to new parents who are maybe like feeling that struggle with therapies and that pressure, like to get their kids to do things? Like, what would be your top tips for that?
I think just find out what works for you. Like if you don't want to get messy, don't get messy. Like if your child loves cars, play with cars. You don't need all the expensive toys to engage in therapy. I remember when Willow first started, I got one of them and it was like $200. And she used it once. So just use things from around the house as well. Like I think back to when Willow was little, if I put a toy in front of her or put like a pit of Tupperware containers and we just built towers and smashed them down, she'd want that rather than the expensive.
Interesting.
Oh man, I've spent thousands, like
Oh,
literally thousands of dollars on specialist things, but Emmy wants the $2 shop squishy.
Oh, totally. They're my favorite stores. Like I go in, I'm like, oh, so in the kitchen aisle, like buy random kitchen stuff. Even Kirk, like before he throws out anything, like a paper towel roll, he's like, do you need this? I'm like, yeah, put it in the drawer. Recycle everything. And that's another thing, recycle. One of the girls' favorite activities, I will like drink almond milk. I'm like, we're just throwing out all these perfectly good cartons. So I would stash them, and then Willow was working on weight bearing, so I would I'd wash them out obviously first, but put the lid on just a little bit, and the girls all together they would pop it and see who could fly the lid the furthest, and that was just the funnest game for them. And Willow got so much therapy out of it.
I
just
love
walking around the house, jumping on these milk cartons that I just would have thrown out, so it cost nothing.
Oh, you're like a genius.
You've inspired me to get super creative today. And you know what? I'm kicking myself because Emmy said she wanted to do some crafty things this weekend. And I was like, okay. And I went out yesterday and bought like a bunch of like art kits and stuff. Now I'm like, I could have just been like really creative and inspired, you know. Yeah,
do anything. Or if you don't want to paint, like get water and paint on the driveway or paint on the windows and get their hands amongst it.
Hey Tara, I just had a great idea, and I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Get ready.
What if you did a weekly video on our YouTube channel where you taught everyone a activity?
One week. Yes, love it.
You could even do it live. You could do it live, Tara. Just putting you on the spot.
You can see all the fights too, because I posted on Instagram and like it's not all zen, like it's pretty crazy.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm going to add that to our calendar, Tara. I'm going to lock you in for a weekly video.
This is what she does, Tara. She's crazy. She
makes you on the spot in front of people. So
I got you to commit in front of everyone, so you have to do it.
I've had to learn to put my big girl pants on over the past 3 years.
Just say yes.
No, I'll do it. I love it. That'll be fun.
Excellent. All right. And then, okay, so finally, like, why are you so passionate about parents staying connected, particularly like with this whole kindship movement? Like you're here and you said yes, but there's obviously something in you that was like, yes, I have to be a part of that. Like, that's really important.
Yeah. So I think as soon as I started connecting through the Instagram page, it was just like I'm not alone for a moment. But I was even speaking to Libby. I was talking to her about the app, and she was even like, oh, wow, I wish that was around when like Isabella was younger. Yeah. And I'm like, I know. Imagine if that first physio session you went to where you're so overwhelmed and the physio could be like, oh, go to this app, like chat to parents. That's what I'm so passionate about, because it is so isolating and it's just such a consuming feeling. But just connecting with other parents, it sort of saves you. It really does. And I think I'm so excited to be on board with this, because there are different ways to connect. Like, not everyone's ready to jump on and ask all the questions, but like you were saying, Steph, they can sit and listen, or they can scroll the feed and get posts, or there'll be resources or they can go and meet up with people, like whatever stage they are on the journey. Kindship's got it there, so you can
I think that's what I love so much about it, because we've found in previous years that, you know, we can offer programs and support. But not everyone's at a point where they want that or are ready. So like this is a really easy, tangible way for people to kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to tune in or get some resources, some ideas. You might choose to listen for a year. That's fine. But, you know, if there's something or one connection that you can make that might pop up, and that's like...
It really changes. Yeah. And I feel like even the retreat that you guys hosted and you said, come along, I'm like, no way, I don't want to. I'm like,
I love that you were like, yeah.
So I was so scared. But as soon as I got there, I was like, you have this sense of like, there's I don't know, it's a weird energy that you're like, oh, but I feel like I sort of know them. So it isn't actually that scary. And it's like I left feeling like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I needed that aspect of it because I was like, I can talk online and I get that. But it's actually meeting parents and being surrounded by it. Like I was on such a high, like, oh, I'm not alone. It's like a beautiful feeling.
You've given me all the goosebumps because that's how we feel. It's like it's like you could bottle like it's not love, it's love. It's just like an energy.
It's an energy, like a weird feeling.
Love bubble.
And then it gives you a confidence boost. Like step out of your comfort zone and you're around other people that get you. It's it's weird. There's nothing like it.
I cried like the entire weekend. Very emotional. Like just so
I know the crying's good. Like crying's so good.
Yeah.
There's just a comment. It's Tracy. I just checked. So it's Facebook user on here because she hasn't clicked the link.
Yes.
But yes, we have a YouTube channel. It's new. But I've just done a whole heap of videos showing how the app works. So did we upload them to the YouTube channel yet, or are they just on our website? They're on our website, right?
They're on the website. I uploaded them to YouTube. So
okay.
Through but they're on
we'll work it out. But there's definitely like videos there, Tracy, to explain how to use each section, and I split them up on purpose so they literally only go for 1 or 2 minutes. So they're bite sized, so that I didn't want you to have to spend like 10 minutes watching a video to find out one thing. So we've split them up. So it's just one thing that you don't know how to use, you can just watch that. So what I'm gonna start doing is actually sharing those videos a little bit more to help people to understand. So thank you for that feedback. We really love that.
Also, we're currently live in YouTube, so go take a look because it should be kindship_app, and I'll put the link here as well so you can check it out because there'll be new resources constantly there, really from now onwards. So
awesome.
So much.
Well, thanks so much, Tara, for joining us. You'll be seeing lots more of Tara on our YouTube channel with her weekly
live event. It's going to be awesome. You're going to kill me after this.
Add that to the list.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tara. We love you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
So oh my goodness, she's just so awesome. I just love her brain, how it works.
We could chat all day too.
I know. So don't go anywhere because we've got another awesome guest. So we have our co-founder and CEO, Summer, who's going to join us. Let's bring her in.
Okay. Hello.
Look at you. You look so glamorous.
Oh, you're on mute.
There are no bags. Don't even say it.
That's where my brain is this morning. Muting myself. Anyway, thank you. Yes, there's bags under the makeup, but I'm good. And that was so nice to listen to you guys just have a chat with Tara.
She's so awesome.
Very special human.
Yeah. You've brought together some like amazing personalities. I just feel like we get to work with the best people ever.
I know. I feel so lucky. I'm really grateful.
Amy says hi, Summer.
Hello, Amy.
You even got a little flower. That's lovely.
Saturday.
That happens every time when I put Summer into my phone. I get that little flower emoji every time.
Do?
Yeah.
You've got your own emoji, Summer.
That to you. Yeah.
So Summer's joining us all the way from Radelaide, and she's left the house because she's got a little toddler herself. So she's gone to get some peace and quiet and do this video in peace. So do you want to share with everyone just a little bit about you, Summer?
Well, that's a big question. It's actually my favorite day to be at work because there's nobody here. So I can just have my little quiet moment. So yeah, as Sandy said, I am one of the co-founders and currently wearing the hat of CEO of Kindship. I am also a speechy by trade. I have a tornado of a 2-year-old little boy, and I was diagnosed when I was 30 formally with autism. So that has also been part of my journey. That is life. So I don't know how much you want me to talk about.
That was perfect. That was really succinct, Summer.
It's either very, very long or succinct. It's one or the other.
So Summer and I actually met through Imogen School. So Summer used to work at Giant Steps as a speech therapist. So that's where we initially connected. And isn't it funny how like the universe just weaves people into your life, and like then go off in different directions, and then things just come back in. I just love how it works. So I know that, well, being diagnosed at 30 with autism obviously must have been like a strange journey. So is there a time like from your childhood where like you knew you just felt different from everybody else? Like, can you fill us in on that journey a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's obviously easier with retrospect now to see more probably those, I guess, what they would call red flags. But yes, as a child, I always felt different. And I can remember quite a few conversations, like with I'm the oldest of 2 siblings. So there's 3 of us, I should say. So yeah, like family members kind of commenting like, why do you have to be so different? Like, can't you just kind of fit in and all of that sort of thing? I wouldn't say that I'm a girl, and we do tend to present a little bit differently. So I wouldn't say I was, to somebody outside of our family, there probably wasn't a whole lot to pick up on. But I think for me, it was really very sensory. So for my whole life, I haven't been able to eat certain, food textures, or I'm really funny about temperature. I'm really sensitive to noise, and in particular, like I can't wear certain things. Like the feeling of digging in sand with my fingers makes me want to vomit. So like very, very hypersensitive in that way. I also remember as like being in primary school, spending most of the like lunch play sessions in the sick bay, being fed Panadol for headaches, which I think actually was probably me just needing that time, that break. And that was the way that I was getting access to that. I definitely had some very weird interests. I probably know more than any non-historian person should about the Tudor period of history. That's just fascinating to me. And I remember quite often sitting at the end of like the basketball court reading like 100 facts about bugs, and my friends like throwing my book in the mud and stuff like that. But I did have friends at school. I was part of a group in that sense. I do remember making some of the boys cry because my mum used to talk to me a lot about tact, like you need to be more tactful, because I would just kind of say what I was thinking. But yeah, that's probably sort of what I can remember of childhood really about being different. I think the other thing is like, and I know you'll laugh at this probably, but I feel like I almost see the world. It's really hard for me to say because obviously I don't have your experience, but I feel like I almost see the world in technicolor. Like I feel like I can see air, almost like the color of air, which is a hard thing to explain. But I think where I do have a thing about color. So
you're very sensitive to color palette.
But yeah, so but it that's something that makes me happy when it's right, and when it's not right.
And it's such an amazing skill to use when you're branding. Like
I always have to and I always make sure I run everything triple past you, because I'm like, it has to be perfect for someone, because it's like I know you see that so specifically, and it's so important.
I remember as a kid, like my mum wanting to paint the house, and we would see a color in a magazine or on an animal or something, and she'd be like, I love that color, and then she would take me to Bunnings and like just look at the color wall of Bunnings, and like I would just be able to match it just like
That's
from
so
yours?
cool.
Oh,
How
that
have
is
you-
like a superpower. That's super cool. Can I just go back to what you said about air, seeing air?
Yeah.
Because, right, I just find this so fascinating because I've been finding, I keep saying that I think Emmy's psychic. Like, I actually think that she can see different things. And when you said that, I was like, oh, I think this is what Emmy's doing because she often, particularly, and I know this is a bit woo-woo for some, but just stay with me. Particularly if I've been meditating a lot or if I'm extra calm, like Emmy will often smile at me, but she's looking above my head. Like it's like she's looking here.
Can see
and she
your
did it-
energy.
Yeah, and she did it to me the other day. I had just finished telling my mum about it on the phone, and then mum come over and she was doing it to me and she was doing it to mum. And mum goes, she's doing the thing. I said, I told you. Like, it's not like she's trying to look at someone else. She's definitely looking at us, but it's like she's looking around us. Like there's something there. And she gets this look on her face like she's in wonder. Like she can like actually see something.
Wow.
So I just think it's so awesome to hear you say that. You're kind of validating what I think.
It definitely dances. Like it's not static. It's a moving color that I see in the air.
I could listen to your perspective all day and just like take notes because I just, it's so often I feel like, and actually with both of my girls, a little bit, both unique, but in different ways. And I kind of like spend so much time trying to understand what is going on in their brains at certain times. And just like, if I could be inside your brain for like one day or like even a minute of a day to understand what you see, like I'll give anything. So I think it's cool to like listen to these perspectives.
So valuable. And sorry, Summer, you go.
Oh no, I guess I was thinking about this morning because I imagined that some of like you potentially or some of the people listening will have children on the spectrum, young adults on the spectrum, and probably be curious about that experience because I know it's not easy for everybody to talk about. So I was thinking about how to talk about my experience, and I did want to sort of caveat by saying like I'm still new to talking about, I guess, my neurodiversity, and I might not say things that everybody agrees with, so I'm conscious of that.
Sure.
But I think the other thing that I'm trying to kind of come for myself learn to deal with better is also the overwhelm that comes from that like sensory experience, like experiencing the world in the way that I do and being in the position that I am, which is very sort of public and social, like, there is challenge to that as well. So I feel like I get this beautiful experience of Technicolor, as I said, but then the flip side of that is that feeling of just complete overwhelm.
Yeah.
And for me, it gets to the point where it feels like I could take all of my clothes off and still be suffocating like in my own skin.
Wow.
And that's really hard for me to manage sometimes. Like I'll just be in bed and it happens mostly when I'm trying to sleep, and I just like I will strip off everything. I can't have anything touching me, but even still I'll just be like trying to breathe through that sense of so yeah, I don't know if that's helpful. I didn't know whether
it's helpful.
It is helpful. You know what, somehow, like I feel like I was getting a bit emotional before and I wasn't sure why, but I think it's because it's like your voice is so valuable because it's almost like a bridge to them. And I often go like, will I ever see that side? Or sometimes I actually feel like I'm losing them or her specifically. Like, but listening to your experiences makes me feel like, no, because if I can just tune in to these like different ways, or like I'll never see that, but if I can tune in to what that might look like for her in that moment, or feel like, or at least try and understand or educate myself about it, like I'm one step closer to her world. So it's really valuable. Really cool.
I just want to share too, like I know, so when Summer approached us to, I might be telling secrets out of school here. So when Summer approached us to come on board with Kindship, she kind of expressed that she didn't feel like she had the experience to be able to launch Kindship herself because she's not a parent of a child with a disability. However, I just feel like some of your experience as an adult with autism or an autistic adult is just so valuable as well. So being able to combine those things, because I don't have autism, so I can't speak to that. But having you as a co-founder, like, is just so, and like, honestly, as a friend, like, is so valuable to my life and our world. Because people always say, if you could have a superpower, what will it be? And I always answer like this: to be able to read Emmy's mind. That's it. Not everybody's mind, just hers. Just so I can understand her experience and try and help her with that experience, right? So, like, I've got so much out of listening to you today. So I'm sure there's so many comments. Actually, Steph, I think we should bring some up.
I know. I'm just like,
can we bring up Michelle Hogan's, because that's actually what I was thinking. Makes me think of the start of the last Twilight movie when she becomes a vampire and everything's like super clear and like they see the little things.
Yeah.
It is like that. Like, I remember, like, I think, you know, there is that element probably of like OCD within the autistic experience for some people. And like, I remember as a kid lying in bed listening. I used to be a percussionist also in my school band. And so like, I can't sing. I'm not musical in like output, but I listen, I pay attention to like the beats of music and that sort of thing. And I passed out quite a few times as a child listening to the frog croaking in our backyard, and I would breathe in time with the frog, and then the frog would stop croaking, and so I would just stop breathing. And, you know, like, it was like I just couldn't force myself to breathe because the frog wasn't croaking. So that sort of thing. Or like, I can't handle being often in a space where there's music playing out of sync or that kind of thing. It's very strange. I think that's really where my passion for kindship comes from. I think there is more coming out all the time about the experience, particularly of neurodiverse girls. And I know my mum, you know, did her best in her own way, but I just feel like if there had been, like, my family, it was all about like fitting in and kind of, you know, not rocking the boat and all of that sort of thing. So wherever I was a bit different, it was like, can we just, like, you know, bring it back, like, fit in, you know, how are you going to fit in? And I feel like if there was that level of understanding and awareness, that would have really made a big impact on my life and the experiences that I had, particularly as a young adult, as I was trying to find out who I was and how I was going to, you know, experience the world. And so I just feel like if through kindship, like, we can just really help. And that's what actually encouraged me to go down the path of getting a diagnosis. It was through talking to you and hearing how you talked about your children and the fact that it wasn't this doom and gloom situation of getting a diagnosis, and that didn't mean that your children were anything less than, you know, the incredibly capable people that they were. It just was this tool that you then had to help them navigate the world. And that's what I'm really excited and passionate about, because I think, yes, it's really important to have that autistic voice heard, but when it comes to children, they need their parents to be that advocate for them. So that's where, I guess my big passion for this whole project lies. So I'm just so grateful for you guys and just the work that you're doing to be a difference in your own daughters' lives as they go forward as well.
We're grateful for you. I'm just like, I just feel like so grateful that we get to do this.
That's gonna cry. Look,
I'm gonna cry. I just think
like, I think I was in sort of the same boat as Charlie. Like, I went to doctors when I was you know, in my later teens, and I think actually somebody in the comments, Trude, was saying how she's
relating to you.
Yeah, so I also had that experience. I was seeing a lot of things, and, you know, and what I was told by doctors was that I was too capable, you know, like, oh, you're that's just ridiculous. You couldn't have autism. You're too capable. And it was like, what does that mean? You know? So yeah, I just think the more, and I think it has to come from families and parents, the more that output is there in terms of that validation of, yes, people can have a different experience, but that doesn't mean that they're less capable. Then that will hopefully change that medical conversation that's happening as well.
Yeah, totally.
Making sense. I said I'm very tired.
No, you're right. You're making lots of sense. I just want to acknowledge some of the comments in this thread.
So amazing.
Yeah. So Amanda Penny, makes sense why a lot of our kids like to be naked. Yes. Yeah, like that makes so much sense to me now. Like Emmy was constantly wanting to be in a birthday suit. Like it was actually really hard for us to work on that.
But then there's the flip side too. She will just pile clothes on. She doesn't actually like to be naked, and she needs like heavy all the time. So it's like a different experience as well, you know.
Yeah.
But understanding both sides, or like what they could be feeling in different times.
Really so Amy said 100% so valuable to be able to explain so many questions or worries that parents may have, and just to see where you are now gives so many hope.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Amanda Jarvis said, I've got so much out of listening to you, Summer. I love how much it gives me an insight to how my daughters might be thinking and feeling.
Yeah. I think that's why I've been emotional, because it's just like,
I know, the impact just of this. Tay says, honestly, seeing you as an autistic adult, so in tune to your body and feelings, gives me hope for my girls and the future. You're amazing.
You guys are going to make me cry.
That's our goal today, Summer. We're going to make you cry.
I didn't expect actually to be like emotional.
I know, you too. I'll hold it together. Don't worry, I've got us. So I think this is Tracy. So Tracy said, I think it's amazing to have someone to describe their journey from the inside world. My daughter, who is now 19, says, I wish I could speak to someone that is like me, but knowledgeable to express themselves, that might understand what I'm trying to say. Because she says, Mum, you try, but most times you don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. There's lots of comments. Oh, everyone's crying. It's all right. Everyone's crying.
I have that conversation with my husband quite often. We will be having, it's actually really interesting. I had to do this as part of a leadership program that I'm doing. I had to do this like psychometric testing thing. And it came back saying that I was like quite below average in terms of like my ability to understand new concepts and kind of, but the way that they tested it was very like spatial. It was like recognizing spatial patterns and how they were sort of the pattern and the change. And I was talking to this guy and I was saying, well, I don't know if that's true. Like, it's fine if it is, but I just don't know if that's true, because often like Andreas and I will be having a conversation and he'll be trying to like about a problem that we're trying to solve. And he'll be trying to present this solution to me. And like, he'll get so frustrated. Sorry, Andreas is my husband. I don't know if I said that. And so he'll be getting really frustrated because he'll feel like I'm not understanding. And then he'll actually take a breath and realize that I'm presenting a solution that is actually very out of the box in terms of works, but it will actually be a better solution, you know? So I said to this guy, like, I think I'm just the way that I think about concepts and then, you know, problems and problem solving. It's not that I can't do it. I'm just doing it in such a different way than your test is measuring. I'm not sure that's accurate.
That's it. 100%.
So I will often be saying to Andreas, like, we'll get into an argument and I'll just be like, my brain just works differently to yours. Like, which is an interesting thing in a marriage, but I all about that.
No, but I think that's so like insightful. I've actually started saying to some of Emmy's therapists, I know she is classed as having a moderate intellectual disability. Like, I get on the tests, that's what shows up, but she is so clever. Like, she does things and you don't know how to test it. Like, she just doesn't do things the way you test.
So it's actually on you for not tuning into her brain.
And I said, you know what? If you need to keep saying she's got a moderate intellectual disability for her to get support,
sure,
do that. However, I know how clever she is.
Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me at all. I think the other funny thing about my experience is, you know, when people think about, especially being, I guess, in the startup world, like a lot of the time it's like, oh, you're an autistic adult, you must love maths, you must love data, you must be wanting to go into space tech or something, because that's like what you're programmed for. And it's like, no, I dropped out of my maths classes when I was in year 10 because like I can't hold numbers in my head. Like maths, like numbers just don't fit well for me. I love creativity, like the creative arts. I love words. Like I remember as a kid, I just used to read the dictionary and just try to use as many big words in my day as I could, to the point where I got accused of plagiarism a bunch of times because they said I couldn't like know what I was talking about. So yeah, that's also I just feel like everybody still is trying to put you in a box, and I love that phrase that I've heard a couple of times where it's like, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, you know. So that's anyway, I feel like I've probably overtaken your own.
No, it's perfect. Like, it's so invaluable to everybody. Everyone's like loving it. So what do you want young autistic people, girls in particular, to know about autism that you wish that you knew when you were growing up?
It's a big question.
Yeah, I think the starting point is that, like, I think you need to, for me, it was really important going into, like, I had a later diagnosis, but going into that world of having to decide how you are going to approach that label is really important. And I think it will be different for everybody. But for me, the way I approached it was, this is another thing that I can find out about myself that will help me understand why I'm interpreting the world and experiencing the world in a way that seems to be different to my sister, for example. And it's not going to have anything other than that purpose. It's not going to dictate what I can and can't do or what I should be interested in. And I don't even have to tell people if I don't want to. Like, that was another thing. It was like, do I now have to like publicly go out and announce to the world that this is part of me? And are they entitled to know that? Well, like, no, not necessarily. So I think coming from that sort of more empowered space was really helpful. But also, I think it's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, I still do struggle in social settings, and I used to feel like I had to mask and play this game, and then I would, like, have my version of a meltdown when I got home. But now, if I need to, I will acknowledge that's just a challenge for me, and not necessarily because I'm autistic, but just like I prefer to say that I have autism, and that social situations can sometimes be challenging. And I feel like it kind of, in some situations, it gives people like okay, like, that's fine. And then it's fine. So yeah, I think it's really about just owning that story for yourself, because I feel like otherwise people will own it for you, and that's where it becomes a really slippery slope of other people telling you how and why that should impact, your world. And also, I think, for me, it doesn't, like, I have a son, I'm married, I have my own business, like, like, I think success is what you want in life, and that's totally achievable as well. But yeah, I think the thing for me was also like that grace, and that's not something that I necessarily do well even now, but I'm really trying to give myself more grace when it comes to things that I find hard, and that, a happy life doesn't mean that you have to have a circle of 12 beautiful, close girlfriends and that you see every other day. As much as that looks nice in movies, that's just not something that actually fills my cup, and that's okay as well. That's probably the big ones for me.
So awesome. And
I've learned so many things this morning.
Same. I needed to take notes. Oh my gosh.
We'll have to watch ourselves back interviewing Tara and Tamara.
Yeah, totally. And I think it just comes from I love that it comes from a place of empowerment, right? So, like, owning that story for yourself and whatever that means, because that's yours. But, like Charlie, as she grows, could have a different story, and she will have a different story. Like, girls or people everywhere have a different story. So I think that's just, like, great to know and to give yourself permission for. So
I think the flip side of that for me is, like, being a therapist and going through this experience has, like, shown me just how much weight that conversation, that therapy, clinical conversation can have on the interpretation of that diagnosis or that experience that the family and that person then takes with them. So when I was getting my diagnosis, I had an amazing woman that I was working with, and she said to me, she was like, you've tested borderline executive processing disorder, which the way she communicated it to me was, she said, if you were in a room with 10 people, you would be the person that would struggle the most in terms of just like that planning element of the steps that it takes to kind of achieve a goal, you know. But it was communicated in a way that, so you should be really proud of yourself when you're successful at that, because that's just a little bit harder for you. It wasn't like you suck at this and like don't even try, you know, don't even try. It was a very powerful, give yourself grace, you know, you can do it. It just might take you a bit more time. And I found that really, it was a really positive experience for me because of the way that she worked with me. And I think, I don't know how we do it, but I think that needs to be disseminated out into the broader clinical ecosystem of how they actually work from a person first and family first way of in terms of their communication.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So much value today. Tara has said, Summer, you have to have a weekly YouTube video as well.
Yeah. Also live. I'll set them up after this.
Oh, you know, for me, I'm just terrified of the hate, which I know is like not a good excuse.
Haters gonna hate, girlfriend.
Did you see my post today, Summer? I said to Emmy, I was like, keep shining bright, baby girl. The judgy peeps can get sunglasses.
Oh,
and I was just like,
that needs to be like,
on a shirt somewhere.
Yeah, like there's so much value. People have got so much value from you today, and I'm sure they would love to hear more about that. All right, so Steph, do you just want to share the slides, please?
I'm just going through the comments too. There's so many.
I know there's so many. Because I'd love Summer to talk about co-design for a sec. So co-design is Summer's like brainchild for kindship, and she's so powerful when she talks about it. So can you explain a bit about your vision around co-design for kindship?
Yeah, sure. So I think when kindship was just a bubble, it didn't even have a name. It was about the time that the NDIS was being rolled out, and I just realized that if this was ever going to be successful in terms of being this beautiful, contributing, just positive community growing like organically that I had in my mind, it was like the only way that we're ever going to be able to do that is if we do it like holding the hand of the parents that we want to be a part of that community. And that doesn't mean, and we learned this in the beginning, because in the beginning we were going out and we're going, okay, do you like A, B, or C? And, you know, the parents, as beautiful as they were saying, oh, I like A or I like B. But it was then when that broke, it was a very long story, so I won't go into it, but it broke. And then we kind of realized that what we actually had to be going was, what do you want? Not presenting options, but like, if this is going to be the app that makes a difference in your life, what does that look like? And then sort of walking backwards from there in terms of like the experience, the features, all of that kind of thing. So co-design, it is, you know, a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I really think that it's going to be the DNA of kindship, and it's what's going to set us apart from those other social networks, which we know are valuable and for their different reasons. But I think with kindship, it can actually be a space where parents feel it's not somewhere that's built for them, because I think there's so many tools that are thrown out to this community as, oh, we built it for you and tell us how great we are and now use it, but like actually built with parents and evolves with parents as they need it to. I think, you know, hopefully our dream for kindship is that this is a platform that really walks with parents from the day that they feel that they need it, whether that's, you know, where they're first starting to think that something might be a little bit unique about their child, or have already got that diagnosis, to the day that it's just, you know, they don't, and that could be at whatever period of their lifetime. So yeah, I think we as a team are really thinking about how we can cater to the way that different people want to contribute to this, you know, whole an initiative project, and really trying to, you know, bring in as many of those voices from as many of those diverse perspectives as possible.
Totally. I was just going to mention in this space about so part of our like kindship community is having a group of volunteers who we call kind folk, who really want to contribute. So they have different roles in the app in helping to keep the space safe, and make sure our community guidelines are adhered to reach out in messages and make sure people feel comfortable to cheer you on, like, and help provide value in our news feed, and also to host our meetups. So we've got like 17 now, of these incredible mums who are supporting the growth of Kindship now. And as the app grows, like, that group of people will continue to grow, because we've just found that there's so many mums who want to contribute to the well-being of other families in our community. And it's just like, that makes me so happy.
I just love also like watching that evolve in such a short time too, like that element of like leadership and like commitment to like our vision as a whole, because it wouldn't be possible without those core people. And imagine if that was then spread out to thousands of empowered parents. Like, that's how we envision it. So yeah, it's
and those opportunities will grow as Kindship grows, and we want our community to be those people who are core in our organisation. So we've decided that we're going to extend the prize draw. So we realised that 3 days and having all the, like, Steph and I got to this morning, we're like, whew, there's been so much happening in the past 3 days. Like, it's been really busy and it's been really noisy in social media world. So we're going to give you guys a little bit more time to actually enter our prize draw. So all you need to do to win one of the 10 tickets to our co-design brunch is to download the Kindship app, like our social medias, and complete the form that Steph is going to put in somewhere.
In the comments. Very shortly. Yes, and it's also pinned to the top of our page, but I will double check it and repost it so that it can't be missed.
Yeah. So I think we're going to extend it by a week, are we? We're going to give people another week to enter.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because what we're asking for as well, like, we understand like it's going to be a beautiful day and like a great morning, but we're also like asking for your feedback. So like, even with the submissions already, people are just like throwing all these like really cool initiatives and ideas and thought processes, or for some it's not even ideas, it's just like a shared vision or alliance with what we're doing. And I think like those insights are so important. So if that's you and you are kind of sitting here now nodding and going, yes, like I want to be part of that, then this is an opportunity to do that. So
and I think, look, please don't discount your opinion.
Don't.
Like, we need to hear, like, we've had so many people throwing so much love our way, like, for the past week, but we also need to hear, I actually don't really like this bit, or that I struggle with that, or this doesn't vibe with me. Like, we actually need all of the things, like all of the feedback. We don't want you to tell us how awesome it is if you don't actually think that. Like, how can it be improved is actually way more beneficial. And we know that you love us and you don't want to hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate that. However,
constructively and respectfully, obviously.
But please don't not enter because you think, oh, my opinions or ideas aren't good. Like, we need to hear all of them. So enter, come to brunch because it's going to be awesome. And then you can share whatever feedback you have and ideas that you have. So don't not enter because you think your ideas don't matter, because everybody's ideas and opinions matter here.
Love it. Awesome.
All right. Well, that is it. That brings us to the end of our 3-day summit.
No, it's you know what? I went out to dinner last night with a few mums and it got late and I was like, I never do this because I get FOMO and don't want to miss out. But I was like, I have to go home. Like, I'm falling asleep at the table. Like, it's been such a big week, but
it has been. But really happy hearts. Like, my heart is so full, and like, I love that the summit turned out better than we had expected. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you, and you found it really valuable. So thank you to all of our guests for joining us. So we had our 3 beautiful mums on the first day. We had Christy, we had Hannah, and we had Linda. Sorry, my brain's not working today. It's the end of 3 days. And then yesterday we had Mel, and we had beautiful Emma on our audio room, and Michelle helping us out with talking about the power of connection, and then today Tara and Summer. So we're just so grateful for all of you for contributing. Thank you so much.
You guys are awesome.
All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. We're so grateful for you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.